Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my boyfriend of 2 years because he started to support Trump? My boyfriend of 2 years suddenly started to support Trump. Last Saturday, my BF, M24, and I, F22, were just sat on the couch. He was on his phone scrolling through his Instagram as usual, and I kept seeing posts of Donald Trump, which I had never seen prior to that day. So I thought to myself, it's probably nothing cause I see posts of him too even though I don't follow him, but I still ask him if he supports Trump just to be sure. To which he responded, yes, he's AG. When I heard that, my stomach dropped, and it just went completely silent, because from that moment on I knew I had to leave him. We didn't really speak for the remaining time we were together. When I got home, he didn't message or check in with me, which he usually does, so I decided to message him about it, and said I didn't really understand how he could support a man like Trump, especially because we're both black and from the UK, so why go out of your way to support Trump, who's racist, has 34 felonies, is a sexual abuser, PDF, file, etc. He tells me that I'm ridiculous, and just goes on to defend Trump, and tells me that I'm ignorant, and that I can't have conversations without getting emotional, that I can't decide what I want for dinner, let alone have a political stance. I tell him I don't respect the way he's speaking to me. The thing is, he'd never dare say those things to my face. He's never been that horrible before. So I tell him that I don't want to continue the conversation if he can't be respectful about it. He continued to be disrespectful towards me, and that was at 2 years out of the window, just like that. I feel like I just didn't know him. My whole sense of reality feels warped. It hurts to realize that the person I loved so much turned out to be this person I can't recognize, and it hurts a lot. Some people think I overreacted, and that it shouldn't matter if he supports Trump or not. I personally think I've made the right decision, but can't help but still feel indescribable pain. Reddit, did I handle the situation the right way? Edit. Many people are saying that this is rage bait, and it makes me laugh, cause I genuinely wish it was. I honestly just felt like it's been quite hard to talk about this to my close friends and family, hence why this is my first post. I just wanted to be able to talk about it, and see different views, which has actually been quite helpful. Some of the comments have definitely made me stop and think, and do some self-reflecting. Maybe I didn't handle the situation the best I could, but I can only grow from this. I still believe breaking up was for the best, especially because of how disrespectful he was towards me. I owe it to myself to be with someone who's respectful all the time. All of this has definitely made me realize that we just weren't each other's person, and that's okay. I believe it's important to be with someone who shares the same values. Love is not enough. Thanks to everyone who's actually been respectful in the comments. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Ick. I feel like if you know him at heart, and that he's a good person who cares, people's politics can bend through time. My partner and I are on opposite ends, and we have a great relationship, great discussions about it at times, but it's always respectful. My opinion, overreacting unless you weren't serious about him / didn't love him. OP. Nah, he wasn't, because the way he spoke to me showed me that he didn't care at all. I tried to have a respectful conversation about it, and he genuinely didn't want one. I 100% loved him, which is a reason I left, because I didn't want to get spoken to like that ever again. If I wasn't serious about him, I would have stayed. Commenter 2. If you don't support each other's core values, it is totally fine to end a relationship. Commenter 3. For politics, religion, abortion, and other important beliefs, if you both do not share views, or at least accept and respect each other's beliefs, it's going to make for a difficult relationship. Commenter 4. I mean the whole. You can't even decide what you want for dinner, let alone have a stance on politics. Screams man smart, woman dumb. As a woman, I would not be with someone with those beliefs. Update. 2 days later. Copy of the text messages. Editor's note. Transcript of the text messages between OP and her BF below. BF. Well, yeah, because you were basically calling me a bad person, because I think he's a good leader. You can disagree with me, that's fine, but to say my morals and values are bad because of that just rubbed me the wrong way. BF. Especially when you know how I actually am, and that I always try taking care of you. OP. I can put my hands up and say I shouldn't have come at you the way did, and I'm sorry. But I do think it's fair for me to question your morals, because he's genuinely not a good person. I'm just saying I personally would never support someone like him, and I tell anyone who supports Trump and is in my life the Sarn thing. I feel like we will definitely agree to disagree about this, though. OP. The thing just started to belittle me, and the AGS you said to me were extremely misogynistic. Just everything about the way you communicated was off, calling me mate and telling me to get a grip. We couldn't even have a proper conversation. BF. Especially when you know how I actually am, and that I always try taking care of you. OP. And yes, you're nice to me, and you take care of me, but do I just need to ignore the way you act during arguments? There is no respect at all. BF. What did I say that was misogynistic? BF. And you literally said it was embarrassing to support Trump. Where's the respect here? BF. You don't judge someone's morals on who they listen to. You judge it on how they treat people. What you're saying genuinely doesn't make sense. How can you be a bad person for supporting someone politically? You were basically saying everyone that supports Trump is a bad person. BF. Can I just say you started hurling the insults first? BF. Saying my views are embarrassing and my values and morals are wrong. No offense, but you're going to get what you give out. I apologize on my part. One shouldn't have stooped to that level, but you could have just said, I don't agree with Trump and left at that. But you call me a bad person when I've literally tried to help you so many times. Did anyone else try getting your phone back when it got stolen? Don't think so. If I'm such a bad person, why would I go out my way for you? That's what really annoyed me. Loads of couples disagree politically, but they don't call each other bad people for it, or let it get in the way of their relationship. OP. You said I can't have conversations without getting emotional if you can't see how misogynistic that is. What to tell you. OP. And saying what to pick for dinner, let alone have a political stance, was weird as well. First of all, you're insulting my intelligence. Second of all, dinner is a low-impact decision, and political choices are high-impact. The two are not even comparable. OP. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but I was just a bit shocked cause literally no one I'm close to supports him. OP. Lots of the things Trump stands for are will, and are already harming a lot of people. And if you support him, it shows that you stand for it too, no? OP. I don't think you are a bad person, and if I did call you a bad person, I apologize. I think you treat me well, and I 100% appreciate the things you've done for me. But it's again, I just genuinely feel like you don't respect me regardless of the disagreement. You just see me as unintelligent and unable to actually have opinions. That was you showing what you thought of me all this time. BF. If you want to have an actual conversation about this, we can, but a lot of the things put in the news are lies and are aimed to destroy people's image. News and social media is the easiest way to destroy someone's credibility. Like how he doesn't like black people. Where does that even come from? Loads of black people back Trump. He even brought Chef G and Sleepy Hollow on one of his campaigns. I used to think he was racist, but that's just what you see on the surface. If you actually look into it properly, he's trying to help all Americans, and that's why I like him. His main priority is his country, not foreign wars that don't help his people. We can talk about politics all day, but I don't care about all that stuff right now. BF. I'm sorry if that's what you thought. You're completely entitled to your own opinion. I don't think you're unintelligent at all. But I'll be honest, you really did offend me, especially because you know in your heart I'm not a bad person, or I hope you do. All I can say is I'm sorry if anything I said came across harsh. We're always going to argue, and it sucks, but that's a part of being in a relationship. There's no light without dark. You only realize how much you love someone when you don't have them anymore, and I feel like that's what makes relationships stronger. It's not always black and white. You're going to think differently to me, and I'm going to think differently to you. Is that a bad thing? That's what makes everyone special, if everyone had the same. I'm sorry if that's what you thought. You're completely entitled to your own opinion. I don't think you're unintelligent at all. Anyway, I'm rambling, but I do really miss you and want you back. End of the text messages. OP's post below the text messages. So I took the advice under my previous post about breaking up because my F22, BF24 started to support Trump. Many people thought it was childish to not actually hear each other out before breaking up, so that's what I did. We tried to have a conversation about everything, and this is how it went. I don't know if I'm crazy, but doesn't he still not sound condescending about it all? As much as I love him, I'm kind of like, the things he's saying are a bit odd. Like, even politics aside, I wish we just left it where it was cause this somehow made it worse. What do you all think? Am I tripping? This is the first relationship I've been in, so sometimes I struggle with what to do. Top comments. Commenter 1. All politics aside, if your views do not align, and this causes issues in your relationship, you two may be incompatible. If it's something you're willing to work on, or something you have worked on and failed at, it could be a deal breaker. Politics are especially challenging because they involve morals and ideas that are extremely deeply rooted in one way or another. Best of luck, OP. Commenter 2. Nor. Saying you can't decide dinner, therefore cannot have a political opinion, is so condescending and also makes no fucking sense. You'll find someone better. You're young. Commenter 3. You don't judge someone's morals on who they listen to. Well, actually, yes, you do, because who you listen to and respect is a part of your morality and what you agree with. Story 2. My family was uninvited from a trip because my son, 14 male, is autistic. 5 years ago, my childhood best friend, 44 male, invited me, my wife, 41 female, and our son on a week-long trip to California with his family and 3 of his college/work friends and their families. I'd met them before, and we all got on well enough, so I agreed to it. They knew that my son was autistic before they invited us, and were fine with it, apparently. The first year we went, my son had a really hard time adjusting but got better as time went on. Although he did have a few meltdowns, but everyone acted like it was fine, and that they understood and continued to invite us on the trip, and things usually went like that. Earlier this week, my friend said that they wanted to discuss the trip, and I too wanted to discuss the trip because of some concerns I had, mainly one of my friend's teenage daughter who was extremely rude to my son. So I agreed, and when I got there, things were really awkward. No one really said anything, and finally one of the guys just said that they and their families had decided that it would probably be best if we, my family, didn't go on the trip this year. I was completely blindsided and of course asked why, and none of them would come right out and say it directly, but they slyly said it was because of my son. They said that this year, since it was vacation, they wanted to be able to truly relax, and for the past few years they haven't been able to. They also said that this year they really wanted some adult time, since they haven't had any the last few years. Whenever my wife and I went out, our son would have to come too, because no one would stay with him. And quite frankly, I didn't trust any of the other kids to stay with him. And he had a meltdown once at a restaurant. Their final reason was that some of their kids were uncomfortable. We rent a big house out there, and felt unsafe staying in the house because of one instance where my son did get a little out of hand, one time out of the 4 years. So I did understand that part of it. Like I said, they never came right out and said it was because of my son, but I knew, and it really hurt. This trip is the only time my wife and I ever get away, and they knew that. I think it's pretty sad that a group of adults can't see past a few inconveniences and annoyances from a child who can't help it for a few days, but I know it's a little different to me, because I deal with it all the time. Overall, I'm just angry, hurt, and confused, as is my wife, by all of this, because they're supposed to be my friends, and I thought they understood everything. I feel like I'm ready to cut ties with all of them and not look back, but my wife thinks that I should tell them all how I truly felt about the situation, so that they won't just think it's okay to do that to anyone. I don't really know why I'm asking, whether I'm overreacting, I truly don't think I am, or whether I should just end friendship now, or talk to them first. TLDR. Friends excluded me and my family from annual trip because my son has autism. I just want to cut them off and be done with it, but my wife thinks I should talk to them and tell them just how unacceptable that is. Top comment. Commenter. You have every right to feel hurt because we can't control the hands we're dealt. However, I'm inclined to say that your friends do have a valid point. An autistic child is a lot to deal with, and not everyone is able to do it. Your point of view is people should accept him because he can't help it, because he's your child and you're used to it. Imagine it from the other point of view. They see it as a child who can randomly go off at any moment, whether he can help it or not. It doesn't matter if it's caused by a disease or just a hyperactive child. They see the potential meltdowns as uncomfortable and awkward. Pretend it wasn't your child. Pretend one of your friend's children has ADHD. His family wants to go on vacation because they're used to it and have learned to tune down his yelling. Would you want to go out with him constantly yelling and making people uncomfortable? Could your friends have been more straightforward in their approach? Yes. At the end of the day, they did a cost/benefit analysis and figured it was better to have peace of mind for their kids and them and decided to cut you. I recommend planning a vacation with your son. There's no reason why y'all can't have a great time as a family somewhere. Update. After thinking hard about it, I decided that I would talk to my friends about everything that happened. We decided to meet again and talk it out. They said that they understood why I was hurt, but weren't even planning on budging in any way. There was no hesitation this time, and one of them, the one with a rude daughter, told me straight out that being around my son was way too stressful and risky, and that this year they refused to constantly walk on eggshells and put their kids at risk for my family's sake. We were never the closest, but I still thought we were friendly enough acquaintances to be respectful to one another. But I guess not. And in a moment we did get into a bit of heated argument, and basically nothing got resolved. But my childhood friend did tell me that he doesn't want this to end our friendship, and that maybe next year we could all work something out. But quite frankly, I don't really want to go on a trip with any of them, and I left. My wife, when I got home, was happy that I'd talked to them, but upset that I even considered trying to come up with a solution to go on trip where we would not even be wanted, which I understand. As far as my friendship with those guys, I'm not sure where it stands, and if we don't talk in the future, it won't bother me too bad, since they feel the way they do. I know that a lot of people disagree with me, but if you can't accept my child, then you can't accept me, especially when he's so dependent on me. I am a little disappointed because I thought we were all friends, but maybe it's for the best. TLDR. I talked to my friends and things did not go well, but that may be for the best. Top comments. Comment. Everyone in your last post said this is how they probably felt and have a right to feel. Almost to the letter. They feel like they have to walk on eggshells. Do you think they should be made to feel like that on their vacation? You feel like they're rejecting your family, and you have a right to feel that way. But it seems like you still haven't looked at the other side of the coin. Commenter. Your friends don't owe you a vacation. You're demonizing them as if they don't like you or your kid, and you feel that they should accept your son without reservations because his misbehavior is part of his disability. Vacations are not supposed to be stressful, and your son adds stress to their vacation. They are in no way obligated to deal with that. You are because he is your kid. And guess what? They tried for 4 years to accept the situation and see it from your end. What have you tried? Story 3. Am I the a-hole for serving divorce papers to my ex at his job the day before he thought he was coming back home? Backstory. I, 59 female, was married to my now ex, 57 male. We'll call him Ed for 10 years, together for 13, but originally met him 40 years ago as teenagers. He was in my circle of friends, but we never dated. We used to live in Florida, but when I was 19, I moved back to Michigan, where I am originally from. 27 years later, I went back to the city in Florida, where I used to live, to visit friends. I ran into Ed while on vacation, and we began talking on the phone daily. 3 months later, he left Florida and moved in with me. 3 years later, we were married. Not my first, but his first. We had our ups and downs, but mainly we got along fine and didn't argue much. He would throw tantrums if things didn't go his way and would punish me by sleeping on the edge of the bed, which was fine with me, or he would not talk to me and slam things. 2 years into our marriage, things went horribly wrong when he got into drugs. It was horrible. One night, I finally had enough and was on the phone with my MIL telling her I was sending back to Florida when the sheriff's department knocked on my door. Someone had found my husband unconscious, severely beaten, in a ditch a block from our house. We lived in a small village with woods across the street. I raced to the hospital and didn't recognize him when I saw him. He was so swollen and bruised. Now, my husband was a man who could fight, and he was strong. Come to find out, it took 3 men to do this. They thought they could rob him since it was payday, but he had been home and purposely left his wallet at home. I sat with him 24/7 while he was in neuro/trauma ICU. I slept on a couch in his room. I prayed over him. I bathed him and took care of him even after he came home. This actually saved his life. He got clean and went back to work full-time, always putting me and my grandson first before his needs. He went to work and came home. That's it. For years later, I finished my education and became an ordained priest and have been the pastor at my church ever since. At first he didn't mind, but then he would say things like, I didn't sign up for this, even though I never pushed church on him. I knew he believed in God, and he prayed daily. I would invite him to Christmas and Easter service, and he also came when I ordained, and when my grandson, who calls him Grandpa, was baptized. For several years, things were really good. Then suddenly, he began coming home from work, showering, changing clothes, and leaving. At first, he said it was to watch whatever sports was playing on TV, because we didn't have live TV. Then he told me he'd be back whenever he got back. Then, things went back to how they were. We laughed a lot, we joked around, and I began getting the usual kiss goodbye before he left for work. One night, he had done his laundry, like he always did, and I talked to him while he was folding it. He never wanted me to do his laundry, so that wasn't new. We ended the night laughing as he was trying on old clothes. The next morning I woke up and went out to the living room to ask what time he had to be at work, but he was gone. I assumed he had to be there early. I walked back into the bedroom and saw his keys on the bed, which made me wonder why he would walk to work on such a cold day. It was December 1st. I started leaving the bedroom again and noticed his laundry basket missing, so I went to the laundry room, and it wasn't there. I went back into the bedroom and noticed his closet empty. I called him to see where he was and asked if he had moved out, and of course his answer was yes. Come to find out, he had met a woman at his job who works for one of those shopping apps where people buy and deliver your groceries. He worked for a large grocery store chain. He had moved in with her. Over the next 6 months, he called almost daily and would say things like, "Our marriage will survive this. Just give me time." He even told me he would be mad if I began dating. During one of our phone calls, he told me he wasn't happy with her and was going down to Florida to visit family. He said he wanted to come back to me when he came back to Michigan. The plan was this. He would pack things that he couldn't live without, but leave things at his new GF's house to make her think he was coming home to her. He planned on giving his 2-week notice while gone and planned on looking for another job when he came home. By this time, I knew I didn't want him back. I found my self-worth again and had made new friends with neighbors once he was gone. Come to find out, nobody liked him. Even the women at the gas station across the street told me how he flirted with them when he came in. Even an elder at my church found out he was cheating, but didn't tell me because she didn't want to hurt me. So I went to the courthouse and got a divorce package and filled out all of the paperwork. Where I live, I was able to serve him myself. I decided that since he chose to end our marriage while working at the store, I would officially end it there. So, the day before he was supposed to fly to Florida, I made sure I looked really good. New hairstyle, makeup, and my outfit was sexy. I went to his job, found him, and handed him the divorce papers. I told him that he was wrong. Our marriage wasn't surviving this. You should have seen his face. He was actually upset with tears in his eyes, and for a moment I felt bad. Then I reminded myself what he had done to me. He didn't just leave me in the middle of the night, but he stopped talking and doing things with my grandson, who thought Grandpa was the greatest. He left me in a house that I couldn't afford without him, and I would have been homeless if my church wouldn't have paid for an apartment. He told me women were stupid. He actually thought he could come home as if nothing happened. That was one thing he said to me on the phone because I never brought up the past. Last week, 6 months after our divorce was final, my car was repossessed. When we were together, he got 2 loans, and I agreed to use my SUV as collateral because I never pictured my life without him. He stopped paying on his loans, so they took my car. I wasn't notified because they sent him the letters. They wanted me to pay off his loans to get it back. I burst out laughing and said that will never happen. So, my question is, was I the AH for serving him the way I did? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Wow, I can't believe he would still try and say the marriage would survive from the phone at his girlfriend's house. Antie. OP. All of his calls were while he was on his lunch break at work. Commenter 2. NTA for serving him. My only question is, why did it take you so long? OP. I felt broken at first. Then my niece passed away. Then my own health fell apart and I was in the hospital 31 days, so I had to build my strength back up. Also, I didn't want to tell my congregation that I was getting a divorce, but mainly my health. Commenter 3. Truly, there's not enough bad shit that can happen to this human vermin. Did he violate any court orders when he defaulted on the 2 loans and caused a repossession? By the way, your grandson is best served to have no contact with this Jekyll/Hyde persona. OP. Unfortunately, no, he didn't. I had forgotten about the loans when I filed the divorce. We always had separate accounts. What made me mad was when I called our credit union about my car being gone, and they got rude and told me they sent me a letter to my church. They didn't know I am the pastor. I said, I am the pastor, and all of the mail gets put on my desk. There was never a letter. That was last Monday. Then, on Wednesday, a letter from the CU came stating my was going to be taken. They mailed it to me the same day I called, 2 days after the car was taken. I'm not inconvenienced without a car. My daughter and grandson move in with me, and we share her car now. Commenter 4. You and your ex were both required to disclose all assets and liabilities. Your ex's non-disclosure could possibly be addressed with a post-divorce motion. OP. We didn't have any real assets, so we did a DIY divorce, and I had forgotten about his loans. My friend, who is a judge, said that whatever he left behind, when he left he forfeited. I did give him things after he left that I knew he had forgot to take. I packed them and set them on the porch. Update. 10 days later. My now ex-husband got a loan while we were married and used my car as collateral. A year later, he left me for someone he met at work. He kept telling me that our marriage would survive. Just give him time. He ended up not being happy with her and planned to come back to me after he left to visit his family, our estate. He planned on not telling his GF he was leaving her and was only packing what he couldn't live without. His plan was to return home to me when he came home. The day before he left to visit family, I served him with divorce papers. 2 weeks ago, my car was repossessed, and the bank wanted me to pay my car off $3,000 and his 2 loans that he stopped paying on, $5,700. I was willing to pay my car off, but told them I'd never pay for his loans, and they refused. Here's what happened since my post. I found out where my car was being held at, 2 cities away. When I went to their website, I discovered that it's also the location where they sell the repossessed cars during an online auction. They hold it every Monday for 24 hours. I called and asked if I could have my belongings out of it, and they said yes. When I arrived, they had my things in a bag, including my license plate. I registered online, and this past Monday began bidding on my car. I ended up buying my car for $2,700. When I showed up to get my car, the people laughed and said I'm not the first person to do this. I put my plate back on and came home. Now I know the bank can still come after me for the balance, but I honestly don't care if it hits my credit report. I don't use credit cards, and in October my daughter closed on a brand new house. I had no other bills except my cell and utilities. I'm now living with her and my grandson. I was lucky enough to have enough time in to retire when my muscular dystrophy began causing more health issues, and that money goes to my other bank. My MIL was happy to give me his new address so I could sue my ex for my half of our income tax return that he kept last year. She's even having us, me, daughter, grandson, stay with her when we visit Florida during my grandson's spring break. She's still calling Ed's GF Teresa, Trina, Tracy, everything except her name, which does start with the letter T. I love this woman. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NTA, but why did you wait 6 months to divorce him when he left you for another woman? OP. My health prevented me for most of the time. I was in the hospital 31 days and then had to get my strength back. Plus, I didn't want to explain I was getting divorced again, but mostly my health. Commenter 2. But you kept answering his calls on a daily basis while he was actively living at his mistress's home. I'm glad something finally clicked in you because that's not the case for a lot of women. OP. I'm the beginning. I was shocked that he left, and it wasn't that I wanted him to come home. I think it was more habit than anything. We always talked on his break. We did this for 13 years. Commenter 3. Duh. He deserves it. Commenter 4. NTA. And you didn't make a scene when you served him. Congrats on attaining your freedom.